hear us? Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
I have a question. I have a question.
Yes.
So if I'm batting and Megan's team is fielding or throwing the ball at me, and I hit it and it's inside the boundaries, and I'm running, is the other batsman running too? Like, there's two people. Is that person on my team?
Let me clarify that. So, what happens is that there are two teams with 11 players each, and of course, when a certain team is batting, two of its 11 players go into the ground to bat, and for the bowling team, all the 11 players are on the field at various places in order to try and stop the ball from going outside the boundary. And within, at the center of that ground is what we call a pitch. It's a patch of where there is no grass. It's basically, if you see from an outsider's perspective, it's a ground in whose center there is a patch which is called pitch, and that pitch is round about 22 yards. So there are three sticks 22 yards apart, which are called stumps, and the bowler is going to bowl from one stump to the other. So you're going to bowl 22 yards apart. And the batsman is going to face from the other side of the pitch, and the other batsman is going to stand where the bowler is delivering the ball from. Now, how do you score a run? So if, for example, I am being bowled at and I use my bat and I play a stroke and the ball goes to my right, in order to complete a run, both the batsmen have to get on the other end of the pitch. So if I'm standing at the batter's end, I have to get to the bowler's end, and the other batsman has to get to the end from where I played the shot. Now, how do they get out is another thing. So your question is, to answer your question, if the ball gets to a fielder, and before any of the batsmen reaches the other end, they dislodge the stumps from the ball. So if they hit the stumps, before the person reaches the stumps, then the person is out. If they cannot do that, and if the two batsmen cross each other and reach their respective ends, then one run is completed. So that's how
Similar
it
thing
goes.
happens in baseball too.
I guess similar thing happens in baseball, but I don't really know what happens in baseball. As much as you guys know cricket, I know baseball. So, for me, it's also weird that somebody is throwing a ball at someone and they only have a stick to defend themselves. This page is too much. I cannot do it with a stick. So that's funny for us as well. So that's how runs are accumulated. There are three ways, generally. There are other ways as well, but generally there are three ways to accumulate runs. You get to the other end. Second, the ball crosses the boundary after touching the ground or bouncing, which gets you 4 runs. And the third is you hit the ball hard enough that it flies out of the ground, and thereby you get 6 runs. So how do they bowl? A bowler at one time can bowl 6 balls. They cannot bowl more than that. And those 6 balls are called an over. So if I bowl you 6 deliveries, I have completed an over. And a match generally, a one-day international match completes after, 2 innings of 50 overs each. So one team bowls 50 overs to the other team, and then the other team bowls them 50 overs, and whichever the team is that has scored more runs in their 50 overs wins the match. So these are the basic rules and criteria of cricket. Are you with us right till now, or is there any question? So now we move on to, the rules. So suppose Avais and I are the opening batsman of Team Pakistan. This has been our dream since childhood. At least we get to pretend that we are the opening batsman of Pakistan. So assuming that we are, opening batsmen and one of the two of the finest opening batsmen in the world, assuming. So, so if I, let me just stand up. So this is how it goes. I'm going to use the bat. Assume that there are 3 stumps right here. Have you seen the stumps?
Yes.
So the 3 sticks. So my job is to protect the ball from hitting the stumps. If the bowler bowls me a ball and it hits the stump, then I get out. That's basic. So what I will do is that I will use the bat to play shots. So suppose, how do I get out? I've told you how do I accumulate runs, but how do I get out? There are some ways for me to get out. The basic way is that the bowler manages to hit the stumps before, he just manages to, hit the stumps. That's one way of getting out. Second is that I play a shot and a fielder catches the ball before it bounces. So if I play a shot and it is caught before the ball bounces, then I'm out. I have to go out and the next batsman would come in. The third way would, and this is where the umpire comes in. He has to make a decision. So suppose I am playing the ball, I'm naturally in front of the stumps. So if I try to play a shot and the ball hits my leg and the bowler's appeal, the umpire has to decide whether the ball would have gone on to hit the stumps had my leg not been there. So this is in order for the to protect the batsman from using their leg to not get out. Because I could use my leg and not get out all day. You could bowl at me, I have the pads on, I'll just use my leg. So this is to counter that. So if it hits my leg and the umpire guesses, this is where their human judgment comes in. If the umpire sees that had my leg not been there, the ball would have gone on to hit the stumps, then he gives out. If he feels that the ball would not have gone on to hit the stumps, then it's a not out. The fourth way of getting out is the run out. I have mentioned it before that if the fielders manage to hit the stumps before I get to the other end, then I am run out. So the first way, the bowler hitting the stumps is called being bowled. The second way, if it touches my leg and the umpire gives it out, it is called the leg before wicket. Leg before wicket. And the third way is the catch out, that I hit the ball and someone catches it before it hits the ground. This is called a catch out. And the fourth is called the run out. So are we clear on that?
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
So if there is any question, you can interrupt us. We don't want you to lose us. We are crazy about this thing. We don't want you to...
So one question I had is, I think you said there were 6 balls for an over.
Yeah.
Is an out ending one of those balls, or does it end the over?
I don't understand your question. There are 6 balls in an over.
So what does an out mean?
The out means that, so suppose we are 2 of the finest cricketers, 2 of the finest opening batsmen in the world. We're playing, and I get out, which is improbable because I'm a very good batsman. I get out. So if I get out means that I have to go out and a new batsman comes in.
Okay, got it.
I cannot play further.
He can no longer play.
I can no longer
Got
play.
it.
My time's up.
At all?
So
Like
if
forever?
Yeah.
Like out of video.
in that match, not forever, in that match,
Forever in that game.
there are 11 players, and if 10 of them get out, that means that the innings has closed. The innings has ended. So a batsman cannot play alone. He has to have a partner on the other end. So if 10 players get out, the 11th person cannot play on their own. So that is why 10 wickets means that you're all out. Your team cannot play further. Now you have to bowl. So that's what out means. 6 balls means that you bowl 6 balls, your over is done. Now there are also two additional rules which are called no balls and wide balls, in order to disqualify a particular delivery. So for example, I am playing and suppose I need 10 runs from 2 balls. So I can hit a 6 and a 4 in order to get those runs. Now imagine that the bowler bowls a delivery which is this far away. So it goes from there. So it is humanly impossible for me to go there. The ball is fast and try and play it. So a ball that is far enough for me to not be able to play that delivery is called a wide ball. That it's too wide. It's not in the range. So if you see the pitch, whenever you get to see a pitch. So right apart from the stumps, there are two lines, white lines. That is the range of which you can bowl a delivery at. So if I miss a delivery which is going past here, that is my fault. But if a delivery is going past, 3 feet away from me, that's not my fault. That's the bowler's fault because it's too far away. So generally, as in ODI cricket, ODI means the one-day international, the limited over cricket, the general rule is that anything going from my leg side. So as a batsman, there are two sides. This is called the off side. The batsman's right side is called the off side. And the batsman's left side is called the leg side. You understand? The off side and the leg side. So as a general rule, if the bowler bowls a delivery that goes from my leg side, it's a wide. Because I cannot open up my body quick enough to play that delivery. For a delivery that is going past the off stump, I'm opened up already, so I can use my bat. So if a ball is going from there, I can't play it straight. I'll have to go here and then try and play. But for a delivery that is here, I can. And the second rule is that the stumps from where I am bowling at is the ball. So this is the ball. Now let me tell you an interesting thing. You might not see this kind of a ball in the States or perhaps in England as well. This is a special Pakistani ball. I don't know if Indians. It's a tennis ball, but the difference is that.
It doesn't have its threads on or the hair.
It is ripped apart. So it is the center, the nucleus of a tennis ball.
It's just a rubber ball. So if you remove these green,
If you remove the green part, if you remove its skin, actually, you get, and this is called.
how this together Satrabdi, right? Satrabdi a Ganji ball.
So in his part, in his area, this is called a sat rabdi. And in the area that I live in, this is called a ganji ball. Ganji means ball.
Oh, yeah.
This is ganji. So that's just an interesting fact. So if I am bowling and assuming that these are the stumps, assuming that this man are the stumps, and I'm going to bowl from this end, there is a specific line that I cannot cross. Otherwise, I can end up, halfway onto the pitch and bowl 2 feet away from the batsman. That would be possible. But right apart, I guess it's about 3 feet.
Yeah,
Increase totally.
almost 2.5.
So, you once you see the stumps, I think 2.5 feet. We know the measurement, but we cannot. It's around 3 feet. 3 feet further from the stumps, there is a line that is called the crease. So if I bowl and my front leg, I put my front leg away from the crease, then it's a no ball. I'll have to keep my front leg within that range. And that is the rule for the run out as well. That before the ball hits the stumps, I have to get my bat into the crease. The crease meaning the distance between that line and the stumps. So this is the range for a no ball and the run out as well. So these are the rules for the bowling, and for the batting I have told you all the rules. Are there any questions?
I have one question. Who's your guys' favorite player?
What?
Who's your favorite player?
That's probably the most difficult question ever because you can't pick one. Currently, so can I name 5 at least?
No,
You do 3.
5 is a lot.
Okay, 3.
Almost half your team. Okay, 3. Yeah.
Okay, I got 3. Thank you. So, one would be Adam Gilchrist. If you have heard his name.
Australian.
He was an Australian opener, also a wicketkeeper. Brilliant batsman. I loved his cover drives. Cover drive is this particular shot. which is played like this towards on this side, on my off side, as Raza mentioned. So I loved Adam Gilchrist's cover drives. He was just too good with this. So one is that, and then oh my God. I would say there's this current batsman Virat Kohli. If I think Indians would definitely know.
I love Virat Kohli.
Is just amazing.
I think the reason why she had that question was because she wanted to hear that.
So yeah, hands down, he is amazing. No doubt about that. So he is one of the most brilliant batsmen ever, and the kind of stats that he's producing, he's probably going to become the best batsman ever. And I think he's still got like 8 years of cricket left in him, and that's a huge feat. So Virat Kohli, Adam Gilchrist, and then my God, there is this list, and I have to pick one. Okay. So I think go with Michael Hussey. He's another Australian, but the reason of choosing Hussey, if you compare stats, you wouldn't find Hussey producing the best of stats, right? You wouldn't find him like in the top run getters of all time or score getters of all time. However, Hussey has that class of winning matches. It's one thing to score more runs, it's another thing to win a match for your team. And Hussey was just too good at it. I still remember a 2010 cricket match in which he, played against Pakistan and we lost the semi-final. But my God, that innings was just amazing. So he batted at right number 7 or number 8, and he scored 60 runs off around 22 balls, and he won the match for the team, and it was literally kind of an impossible feat to achieve. So yeah, I think I'll have Gilchrist, Hussey, and Virat Kohli. And can I have 3 more?
No.
You're done. Okay, thank you. These are my
Two questions for you guys. How often does the India national team play the Pakistani national team? How often? Like once a year?
We have a lot to talk about that. So in cricket, there are some very famous rivalries, and they're beautiful rivalries. So have you ever heard about Ashes by any chance?
Yes, Australia, England.
Australia, England, Ashes, the whole cricket rivalry goes back to around 130 to 40 years. And it has a very beautiful story behind it.
Not so beautiful, actually.
But, if you talk in cricketing terms, it is a beautiful story. So, they were playing against each other, and this was a time, somewhere in 1882, I believe. This was a time when England was like the father and the mother and, the brother of cricket, everything, right? So they were the best cricket team in the world, and they were playing against Australia, which was also a colony of England, if you guys would definitely know. So, so Australia was playing England in England, and, the tradition would tell us that England would always win. But there was this particular match, which was played in England.
They won the series.
They won the series. It was the final match of the series, and it was literally impossible because they needed around 80 to 100 runs, and they had just like 1 or 2 wickets left. But Australia went on to win that match, and they won the series for the first time in England. And the next day, one of the top leading newspapers of England, it ran a headline which said, the cricket has died in England. The body has been cremated, and the ashes are being taken to Australia. So that's where the name comes in, the Ashes cricket, and it's one of the most beautiful rivalries in the world. And then, coming on to your question, another beautiful rivalry is India-Pakistan cricket. So, man, I love this rivalry. So, the first time we played against each other was in 1952-53 series, in which we played 5 test matches. But, after that, there has been so much cricket, and you wouldn't believe, you watch any team playing, any 2 teams playing, and you watch India and Pakistan playing, there is a different thrill. the matches would definitely be more interesting. I don't know, there is some divine intervention in it, but it's true. So it happened every time, and we used to have regular cricket series like England goes in Australia, Australia goes in England. We used to go in India, India used to come in Pakistan up to 2004 and 2005. So these were brilliant cricket. There was brilliant cricket going on. After that, we had a little tragedy in Pakistan due to which international cricket was banned in 2008. In 2008, and since then we haven't played cricket as such in Pakistan. India hasn't come. We went to India once in 2014 or 15, I believe, but we haven't been playing bilateral series since. So the only times India and Pakistan play each other is in an international tournament, like in a World Cup, like in another kind of championship or something. So that's kind of an unfortunate thing because it was definitely beautiful cricket. But yeah.
Also, to answer that question, there are two ways two countries play cricket. So, as you would know, there is a World Cup or international tournaments where all the teams from the world come and compete in a tournament. And in cricket, there is something called the bilateral series. So, for example, I am a cricketer from the New Zealand. So the New Zealand cricket team would invite the South African cricket team to come to New Zealand and play, for a month. A couple of ODIs, a couple of test matches. So that's how it is. You wouldn't find that thing in, say, football. There is no bilateral series in football. I don't know about baseball or any other sport for that matter. But in cricket, there is this idea of a bilateral series. So if you play in a World Cup, the Pakistan and the Indian team, both the teams they don't have a choice. They have to play each other. But as you guys might know, Pakistan and India don't have the best of terms as states. We are always, for the last 70 years, always almost at war. We fought 3 wars, but even now, if you hear the news, we are almost at war. So the possibility is always there. We always sleep at night, imagining a war with India, and I'm sure Indians will do that as well. This is quite unfortunate. This is you guys would know how unfortunate this would be. So due to the fact that the relationship between the two states are not healthier, nobody invites anyone. Nobody wants to go to the other country. Nobody wants them visiting their country. So there hasn't been a bilateral series since, I think, for like 10 years now.
More than 10 years.
More than 10 years.
Somewhere around
A
30
full-fledged bilateral series was I think 15 to 20 years back. So
this particular point brings me to another thing. So as I was telling you that how cricket is this gentleman's game and has the whole spirit of connecting people and all. You see, there is a term called cricket diplomacy in our part of the world. So since Pakistan and India do not enjoy the best of relations at stake, there have been instances in which cricket was used as a diplomatic, kind of diplomatic thing to bring the two nations together. In 1987, we were not at good relations, and there was our president was General Ziaul, and I think Rahul Gandhi was ruling India in those times. No.
What? Rajiv Gandhi.
Rajiv Gandhi. Rahul Gandhi is like young. Sorry, apologies. So Rajiv Gandhi was ruling India in those times. We had a series back then in which which actually worked to better the relations between India and Pakistan. And the same happened in somewhere in 2003 and 2004. So there is another political aspect of this game as well, in which it has worked to kind of connect. Despite the differences or despite the retaliations or conflicts, etc.
I think if you come to analyze the sport in general, the sport has always been a political thing. So for example, one central aspect of this game is that it is being played in countries that, in Britain or the countries which are former colonies of Britain, mostly. So for example, you have a team from Pakistan, from India, from Sri Lanka, from Australia, from the West Indies. All of these have been the former British colonies. So cricket was brought to these nations by the British imperial forces, and they used to play cricket then. And the colonies, the former colonies basically inherited this sport. from the British. So as soon as the British left from Pakistan and India, the one thing out of the many things that Pakistan and India clung on to was cricket, and they played it as if it was their own game. So,
I think,
for
yeah,
example, England, the founder of cricket, won the World Cup for the first time 2 months back. And India has won it for a couple of times. We have won it for like one time in 1992. England never won it, which, the country which basically gave us this
So,
sport.
we can safely say that cricket is the only good thing that colonialism gave us.
Okay, back
But
to you.
it would have been far more peaceful.
Yeah. Do you have any more questions?
Back to your. He didn't answer the favorites question.
Oh, fair.
Oh, so
No trouble.
well, I can't tell you random. Out of the three that he pointed out, how many of the players you guys knew?
I think Kohli.
Kohli and
Gilchrist.
Gilchrist. Gilchrist is.
So I'm going to say players that you might know. Have you heard about Sachin Tendulkar?
Yeah, of course. I was actually shocked that Sachin was not on his list.
Yeah, and I can tell you the reasons.
No, I think Sachin, a player
Let's
of
not
his
go there.
caliber, should be, excused from the lists.
Yeah.
Because our list starts with the assumption that the best player there is Sachin. Now I'll come on to the next best player. So that's there.
I'm not totally with him on this, but yeah.
I think.
Let's not go there.
But from India, I think there was a player called Rahul Dravid.
Yeah.
I think he was, one of the there's a player who has the skill. There's a player who has the brain. I think he was a genius at the game. He understood the game well, and it's not just about having the skills. It's about planning the game. It's about building a strategy. I've never seen a player more composed and calm in a pressure situation more than Rahul Dravid. I think he was called the wall because he would play for like days. You wouldn't get him out. So I think that's one player that I like. I'll tell you my top 3 players from India. So,
No, it's okay.
but that's not. I don't mean to say that I think the 3 players that I'm going to point out will be on my top 5 lists as well. I think India have produced brilliant players. So,
Okay.
and another player. I think I really.
See, I told you it's tough.
I don't know who to name actually.
You can name from your team. Yeah.
From Pakistan, I
Shoaib
think
Akhtar.
there was a captain. He was
Oh my god, yeah.
his name is Misbah-ul Haq. You might know.
Amazing.
So as I was saying, it's a political stuff. I think the reason why I picked Misbah-ul Haq as an inspiration, as one of the best players and captains that I have had the opportunity to play or to see play, is because when Misbah took over as the captain of Pakistan, there were 2 major incidents preceding that. One was an attack on the Sri Lankan team when they visited Pakistan in 2008. You guys might not know this, but in 2008 a Sri Lankan team visited Pakistan, and there was a terrorist attack on the team. 2 of the players got injured. They had bullets in their intestines, and the rest of the players were fortunately safe. So the tour was cancelled, and afterwards we haven't had much international cricket. We were banned because nobody wanted to come to Pakistan because they feared for their lives, which was understandable at that point in time. So that had happened, and second, 2 of our best players, named Mohammad Amir and Mohammad Asif, the 2 of the best bowlers of this generation, were banned from international cricket because they cheated. They took money for playing a certain way. So for example, if I tell the Bet365 site that, if I bet that Mohammad Amir is going to bowl a wide ball in this particular over, and I bet for like 1 million, and out of which I give Mohammad Amir, the person, the bowler, $500,000, and I ask him to bowl a wide ball, and he bowls it. In return, I win a huge amount of money because my bet has won. So this is called spot fixing. This is called match fixing, that you take money to induce a certain kind of a result, that benefits people financially. So there were three players, our captain, Salman Bhatt, two other bowlers. They were found guilty of match fixing, which is why they were banned. So when Misbah Haq took over, he had a team which had been literally banned to play cricket at home. Three of their best players have been banned to play cricket. And from there on, in like 3 or 4 years, he rebuilt the team. And there was a point that Pakistan was the best test team in the world. For me, it was something because I could relate to it. I could see the terror that had, embraced the Pakistani cricket team. I had seen schools getting closed. I had seen training centers not filled with young cricketers anymore. So in Pakistan, after terrorism started, both of us haven't really played the kind of cricket that you see on the TV. It's played with a hard ball. We play with these kinds of balls because most of the people, they don't afford all the kit, all the equipment, the gloves, the pads, the helmet. We don't afford that. All we need is a bat and a ball. So you're going to bowl at me, we're standing at a random ground and we're going to play. After, the advent of terrorism, the terror was so close to our houses that we couldn't go out and play cricket in the grounds. So the grounds, people just went away, which is why, cricket in Pakistan has had a very adverse effect due to terrorism. So in that particular moment, a player like Misbah-ul-Haq comes up and he makes your team the best test team in the world. I think that's something very inspiring for you. So that's why I think Misbah-ul-Haq would be, one of the best players that I have had the opportunity of watching play. That's my answer.
Nice. And third one?
Third one. I think.
By the way, did you notice that we're only talking about batsmen here? None of us has listed a bowler. I think we should do another session for bowlers. Like, there's another list.
I think I would pick two players. There was a bowler from Pakistan called Wasim Akram. He was captain of the team. And I think there was also an Indian bowler called Irfan Pathan. So Irfan Pathan did not become as successful as Wasim Akram, but I watched him in the start of his career, and I think that in the start of his career he had all the things that Wasim had. Wasim Akram could bowl 6 different deliveries in an over. Irfan Pathan also had that opportunity, but I would name him because I enjoyed him to see him bowl. There was a particular test match in Pakistan in which he got a hat-trick. Hat-trick means that you get 3 batsmen out on 3 successive deliveries, which is like an impossibility. So Irfan Pathan got 3 of the best Pakistani batsmen out in Multan, Karachi. So, at that point in time, I used to hate him because he got 5 batsmen. But as soon as I found out that cricket is much more than your love for your country, I think I found Indian players to be, excessively talented. So I think Irfan Pathan would be my third player.
So all the players that you mentioned, none of them are currently playing.
Yeah, that's true. So Virat Kohli is currently playing. No one else currently is playing, and which particularly is true because in cricket, if you're a classic lover of cricket, you got to love the Test cricket, which is the oldest format of cricket. As I was telling, a match goes on for 5 days. It is, a peaceful, calm cricket match in which you have your whole time to build an innings, to produce runs, to, actually have great cricket. And then there's a shorter format for people who are in haste, which is the one-day international, which is with the game ends in 1 day. And then, as I told you, the fastest format of cricket is the T20. So, talking about cricket as a classic lover of cricket, so we love Test cricket the most. So, and there's a reason, because Test cricket used to happen in, since forever. So the cricketers that played Test cricket only and their whole talents and skills were flourished and nourished by Test cricket, they were great batsmen. Since cricket has become fast, since there are modern formats of cricket, we have noticed that cricket has slightly reduced in skill and class. It has become more about who gets to score more runs, which was never the case that which was not the essential case for cricket at all. So talking about that, so we do believe that cricketers that existed in the past were more skillful than most cricketers that exist in the present, because they have to play T20, they have to play ODI, they have to play Test as well, which kind of reduces their careers as a whole, reduces their skill set as a whole. But yeah, there are some exceptions definitely, as Virat Kohli. We have more exceptions. Kane Williamson of New Zealand is an amazing cricketer. There are a number of batsmen that are currently playing are really good. But comparing to the past, there were legends playing the game in those times, and so yeah.
So for those of you who might not know what Test cricket is, as I said, there are 50 overs generally in a one-day international match. A Test cricket goes on for 5 days. You have a limit of 90 overs per day. So you play for 5 days, and for example, in a one-day match, my team has 50 overs. So if I get to score 300 or 400 runs in those 50 overs, that's enough. But 50 over is my limit. If my team doesn't get out in those 50 overs, my innings would still end. In Test cricket, that doesn't happen. You could play on for 5 days, and nobody would say that you need to get out. So for 5 days, you have all the time in the world. You have to build an innings. The bowling side builds strategies. They set up traps through fielding. So in that particular thing, the cricket becomes more of a strategic game, that you have to plan to get a batsman out, because you know that he won't get out in haste. He won't try a silly shot because he has all the time in the world. With the advent of one-day international, now the T20 cricket, have you guys heard of the Indian Premier League?
Yes.
Yes.
Or the Australian Big Bash, the 20-over tournaments. For me personally, the 20-over cricket has been detrimental to cricket as a whole, because with it has come money. With money has come a particular kind of commodification of the sport. So now tournaments are being organized not for strengthening the skill of the sport, but basically to raise money. So IPL right now is one of the biggest, it's $1 billion industry. The KFC Big Bash in Australia is $1 billion industry. So you guys, might know that anything that has this much amount of money attached to it would not be pure, would not be, closer to human experience. So Test cricket, on the other hand, is closer to that. For a spectator, you would go and you would sit in a ground for a whole day. You would have your drinks, you would eat, you could read a book there. You have a day to enjoy cricket. It's like a festival. It used to be a festival. People used to go there as a picnic spot. People used to take their children, and there's a festival going on. Two of the best teams are playing cricket. You're watching on the sideline, and you're having your fruits, you're having your drinks, you're reading a book.
Do you know in England there are some very famous grounds, like there is this most famous ground called Lord's, which is called home of cricket as well. There is a proper dress code for you to be in that game of cricket. So you've got to wear your suit, your hat and all, and you're sitting there like an old lord or something, and you're watching the game. So there are these particular things attached, with cricket as well. There is a lot attached with cricket. We could talk about anything, but yeah, if you have more questions or something you want to ask.
I have a question. I think since we only have a few minutes left in our connection, I know it's very late there for you. Since we have some equipment with us, can you maybe teach us something very simple, like how to hold the bat? Like when
So, how many bats do you have?
we have 3.
All right. So,
Who wants to learn?
Who wants to learn?
you guys have amazing bats.
Are they? I don't know.
We're jealous.
Good?
We know how to play cricket, and we don't have a good bat. So the first part is that you hold a bat like that. You pick it up.
this. Like this. Oh, sideways like this.
So I'm assuming that all of you are right-handed.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think that was what was facing out.
So there are two faces of the bat. You know, this face, the back side, which would be a little, curved.
Yeah.
That's not where you hit the ball from. You hit the ball from this, the smoother side. This is the place to hit the ball from. So you hold it like that. All right. So can you look at my feet, my legs? Because footwork is very important. So your legs need to have a general gap between them, not too much, not too less. Just stand putting weight on both of your legs. Is that fine? And you need to hold the bat as if it's your own. You cannot, don't hold it loosely, with a little strength. Hold it as if it's your own thing. Now the third thing you need to do is to put the tip of your bat behind your right foot, like that. You can bend your legs a little bit as well. And you need to hold this like that.
I think Krishna is doing right. Out of all his
I've done this before.
When a batsman is preparing, when a batsman is preparing to the batsman usually taps the bat. So you need to tap the bat as well. This means that you're ready to play a delivery. This is a signal. All right. So generally, so are you there with me on that?
Yeah.
Now the third thing is that your head needs to be still and straight like that. Open up your body a little bit for you to have a clear image of what's coming from the other side. So for example, if I play like that, that's how I'm going to look at. Do you understand? You don't have to push yourself, it needs to be natural. Like that. And can you see my elbows? They're not straight. They're a little, there's a bend like that. So your elbows cannot be like that straight. They cannot be. There needs to be a bend. So hold the bat like this with your elbows, bended. Hold it like that. Hold it with a 90 angle. That can be good practice. Both of your elbows. Now, that's better. So when you play a shot, play a shot like that, and the bat needs to be straight. Like straight. This is straight. Yours is not straight. This is straight. So, the bend in your elbow will help you keep the bat straight. So for starters, when you start practicing cricket, the first thing that you can practice is to play a ball with a straight bat. It is going to be difficult for you as you start. Your bat is not going to be as straight as it is, but your job, your ideal is to have, play it as straight as possible. So now, using all of these things, legs with a general distance, your foot, your right foot, knees a little bent, not too much, elbows bent, and then you play it like that. Do I look like a graceful batsman? And then when you play a shot, this leg, the left leg, is the key to any kind of shot that you're playing. So what you need to practice, the first practice that we're going to give to you that you can practice all along, is to play a shot with a little stride from your left leg and then a straight bat. That's called the forward defensive shot. That's the most basic cricketing shot that you're going to see. And if you master that shot, you can go on and play any shot. You know, one of the reasons why Virat Kohli is such a great batsman is that when he plays a forward defensive shot, it is highly improbable that you get him out, because he has had it covered. He has all these things. So, a little bend and then like that. With a stride. Yeah, stride.
Walk into the.
Yeah, there's.
Risky. What you're going to do is that you're going to use your right leg as for your balance. You're going to plant your right leg as firm as you can so that it gives you balance, and then you're going to use your left leg for flexibility and composure, and then you're going to play that shot. Now play a shot for me. Just try it. That's good, but you don't need to.
Sure it is.
If you start practicing with this kind of a lift of the bat, you might end up, becoming a player like Shahid Afridi. And I hate that man, although he loves him. And we have had fights on that.
Yeah, we're always in
Some part
arguments.
A part of me hates him for that, and a part of his hates me for that. So we generally hate each other for that. So I don't want you guys to become a player like Shahid Afridi, who always tries to hit a six. So don't use the bat like that. Use the bat like that. Now play a shot again without lifting the bat. Just keeping it close. Keep it close.
Nice.
You see, this is
Acha, Raza has told you about, batting. I would like to tell you a little about bowling, if anyone's interested.
Yes, yeah, we have time.
We have time.
Do you guys have balls?
Just quickly, just do it like that.
Yeah.
Do it in 1 minute. Okay. So, what's your name again? What's your name?
Anshita.
No, the one who has the tennis ball.
Oh, Shalini. Shalini.
Shalini, so throw a ball. How would you throw a ball? Like just naturally. Just throw a ball naturally. So this is your way of throwing a ball. In cricket, you basically have to throw a ball, but not the way that you threw, right? So there's a particular method for it. So you will have to bring your hand from your back, make a whole 360-degree circle, and then you can ball. Your knee can't you can't bend that. Don't bend it. Just bring it straight. Can you bring it like this?
Yeah, go ahead, step forward.
How did you hold the ball? How do you hold the ball?
Yeah.
So there are different ways. That is a big, in fact, discussion. How do you want to hold the ball? You basically want to, if you want to have an in-swinger, you ball it in a different way. You hold it in a different way. If you want to have a slower ball, then you hold it in a different way. But it can depend on any situation. But in any way that you hold the ball, you just have to bring your hand all the way from the back, and this is your release point. This right on top of your head and a little in front. This is your release point. This is where you have to actually, hit the ground. If you want to bowl a fast ball, then you have to hit the ground as harder as you can. If you want to bowl a slower ball, you can, just like bowl a little slower and hit the ground a little softer. So there are different varieties of ball, and but this is the main method that you need to see that where do you want the ball to reach the batsman. So there are different heights. If the ball reaches the batsman here, it's called a bouncer, right? This in cricket is called a good length ball because this is the most difficult area to play. And this, if you go further down, this is like a Yorker or a full pitch ball, which has another charm of its own. So this is how you bowl. I think
before we head out, one last thing. There is a book called Beyond the Boundary. It is written by a man called C.L.R. James. I think you might find it, it's easier to find. It's not about the basics of cricket. It won't teach you anything about how to play the sport, but it will give you an immense amount of perspective about what the sport means for those who play it. So it is, he analyzes the sport in relation to the kind of societies that it became popularized in, and the kind of politics, the kind of social order that the game produced. So it's a very interesting read. I think you can find on the Wikipedia page or the YouTube the basics of cricket. But if you don't want to play cricket but have an interest in cricket, I think that's a book that you really need to read. It's called Beyond the Boundary by C.L.R. James.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Well, thank you so much both for teaching. We learned a lot, I think, about cricket, and you seem very crazy about it. So, yeah, I think everyone had fun today. Thank you so
guys.
much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Lovely to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you.